Okay, so I won't make you read the agenda. We'll go on to the next thing. So actually, I'm going to stop sharing. At the Urban Survival Skills Fair in the University Heights, a couple of the hub captains got together. I was hoping Melissa was going to make it to this one, but she's not here. But Gabrielle, Pauline, and then Jim Duran were we were all working at the same time, and these guys got together and said, why don't we divide the efforts of helping each other with outreach? So Gabrielle or Pauline, either one of you, if you guys want to speak up and talk about what you...
It was Pauline's idea. So you want to do it, Pauline?
Sure. Basically, I'm finding that it's taking a lot of energy to come up with an email, and I'm feeling like I need to email my group monthly and want it to be, you know, kind of sparky and interesting and educational at the same time. And so I was talking to Gabrielle and I said, why don't we get together, and when one person puts together an email, send it to everyone, and then you can just kind of put in, oh, you know, I'm the Greenwood Hub, and send the content out. And then maybe we're each preparing one a year rather than struggling to try to get one, each of us get one together every month. So that was kind of my idea.
So one of my thoughts, I looked at Prepare in a Year, which is a program that the Washington State Emergency Management folks put out. I was looking at their topics every month because they have broken it up into 12 months, and they're not exactly, you know, because they're doing the whole state. So they're helping folks prepare that aren't necessarily the Puget Sound area. But I'd be willing to like put topics out there, and then you can pick the topic and pick your month. Okay, so I'm happy to do that. Anything else to say about that?
Who's the audience? Is that just for us to distribute to whoever our community mailing lists are? Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. And while we're on the subject of emailing your community, I've kind of been saying this for a while, but I want to make sure everybody's heard it, that it might be a good idea to create a separate email account for your hub community volunteers or whatever, so that it's not tied to your personal account. If you ever had to step back and you wanted somebody else to be hub captain or whatever, it's easy to transfer rather than using your personal account. So if anybody needs help with that, I'd be happy to help. Go ahead, Brianna.
I was just say, per your advice, we did that. I already have Gmail. And so I just created a, I think it's like Maple Leaf South emergency hub at gmail.com. And I have myself as a delegate of that email. So I have other people assigned as delegates of that email. So it doesn't have to be me that's managing it all the time, that all of us can be involved, and it's saving grace.
Yeah, nice. Nice.
Do you delegate calendar stuff too?
Pardon?
Do you delegate a calendar too to track events?
I can. I haven't, because like we haven't really done a whole lot yet.
Yeah.
So, but we can, and I think that's a great idea. I think that'd be great.
Go ahead, Gabrielle.
Yeah.
So I have a community email for my small neighborhood, and it, you know, it's Windermere North Community Association at gmail.com. Currently, I'm the only one that's using that. But so first, Anne, thoughts that should I get another one just for the hub? And then I don't know how I would delegate people that I don't know how that's an option. So that's something I'll have to look into, Brianna. That's good. I mean, I would just give somebody the sign in, since I don't use that for anything personal, but.
The delegate is really, really handy, because it makes it so that when there's a sign-in change, you don't have to give everybody the new password, because everybody has their own and they can manage it themselves, you know, so it's kind of handy. Or if somebody no longer wants to be involved, you don't have to like do a whole lot aside from uncheck this person, they no longer have access.
And that's just, is that just in Gmail somewhere?
It's a Gmail product, and it makes it really easy. With Gmail, just makes it really easy. So if you already have Gmail, it works out great. I am confident that other products exist like that. We use it at work a lot because we use Google Suite at work. And so this, I was like, oh, convenient. How will do this? And, but I'm sure that, you know,
I'll
if you
figure it
do
out.
the other ones, I'm
Yeah,
sure that
I'll figure it out in Gmail. Thanks.
it's really easy. Yeah, absolutely.
And if you haven't created one, I would encourage you to use a Gmail account. For some reason, it makes it easier if you hook it with, you know, like Cindy's not newsletters, but if that's the Gmail, if that's the email account that Cindy has as the hub, as you, the hub captain, then it doesn't bounce back because Google and Gmail are the same thing. I don't know. They're somehow very connected. So,
I mean, they're the same company.
Yeah,
And
Okay.
it's,
product.
kind of
and
thought
it's, yeah,
so,
it's the
but I
same
wasn't
product.
sure.
And it
get
makes
the
it really easy when you're
storage.
doing file sharing.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, when you're doing the folders and you do calendars, like all the things sync up really well. If you're not a Gmail person though, if you're like hardcore Outlook and you're only on your Apple stuff, like you only use your, I can't remember what the other one, it may be a little clunky for you to switch over, but most everybody just it's
The native Apple apps do sync with Gmail. But,
most of them do.
Yeah, I mean, and I work on a Mac and the Greenwood Hub has a Gmail and it's just, I've just set it up as a separate account within Mail. And so the emails just pop up. It's no problem.
So if anybody wants to do it and is struggling, just reach out. There's obviously lots of us that are comfortable doing that. I want to turn it over to Christian because the next topic is the future of radio in the North. So Christian Helfrich is on the line. He is one of the North sector sector leads. So go ahead, Christian.
Awesome. And the future is bright. That's it. It's looking really good.
Great.
Yeah, great to see everyone again. So Ann and I were chatting a bit just about exercises and activities, and a couple of quick things. One, we were just talking about radio operators in the north of Seattle that work with the Seattle Auxiliary Communication Service, so the volunteer ham radio operator group that works for the city, and just talked about making those connections and continuing to practice together and figure out exactly how we work together. So I think that's just an ongoing conversation. We're very fortunate to have a lot of hams active in the north of Seattle, and who are very interested in working with their communities. And Sandy is a great example of someone who also occupies both, kind of both realms. And I know that Matt and Hugh are also hams. One of the things that Cindy, that Ann and I talked about was in terms of, just in the event of an earthquake, where does radio fit in? GMRS radio, where does it fit in? Where does ham radio fit in? And one of the things that we talked about was the importance of the sort of welfare check or the status check. And I know that you guys have been looking at the Red Cross capabilities and services precisely for this, for just determining for families to identify, or loved ones to identify when their family members or loved ones are accounted for. And one of the things that Ann and I talked about was that is often a role that ham radio plays in disasters, and that there may be an opportunity for us to do some cross training and help you all with on the GMRS side, practicing with digital modes of radio, where we transmit digital messages, and namely in the case of welfare checks, potentially lists of people accounted for, so Ann and I have been talking about the possibility of doing some practices in the future with these digital modes, something that we're doing on the ham radio side. And let me pause there and see if I've accurately conveyed our conversation or what I've left out or what I've gotten screwed up.
No, you're right. So to summarize, you can send digital information, so files, chunks of information, you can send it digitally out from a ham radio through frequencies, and you can pick it up on a GMRS radio.
Yeah, and basically, and Matt, Hugh, just to be clear, so whenever we have these conversations on the ACS side, there's immediately a lot of like, we can't, send digital stuff over GMRS. But what we're talking about is with the GMRS radios that you all have, the BTECs, they also receive ham frequencies. And Ron, when he programmed your radios, he programmed in a bunch of ham frequencies so you guys can monitor. On those ham frequencies, we can transmit digital messages, which are really, it's very analogous to fax. It's just like sending a fax over a telephone line. It's an audio signal that encodes a digital message. And there's nothing that prevents you as non-hams from taking that radio signal that you get over your GMRS radio and decoding it. And there's actually software that can do that with nothing more than your radio sitting next to your computer, as long as your computer has a microphone. And you can literally, set up a radio next to your computer, have something that it sounds, there are a range of modes, so they all sound a little different. They don't sound, and none of them sounds exactly like a fax, but it's pretty similar. And you can decode these digital messages. And again, one of the things that Ann and I were talking about is that with Seattle ACS, a lot of what we practice with now are sending these digital modes because you can transmit so much more information that way. It's much more efficient than trying to go through lists just by voice. And again, there's no reason, there's nothing illegal about decoding those messages. It's public information. When this goes out over the airwaves, it's public information. We get into all sorts of issues with privacy, obviously, but lists of names, again, depending on the context, in a medical context, that's problematic. But in the context of just accounting for, people who, are self-reporting, in a disaster is not a problem, is not problematic. It's again public knowledge. So anyway, Ann and I had talked about possibly making that something that we do as an exercise. We could get together and actually do some demonstrations and show you all exactly what this does. And I've practiced just again with these. I have the same GMRS radio that you guys are using, and have practiced using that for receiving these messages. Yeah, and you might have more comments, and then Matt and Hugh and Sandy also may have comments and thoughts. Yeah.
Well, I had a question. Are you just talking about using like a signal link to as the endpoint for them? Okay. And I would say,
and Matt actually,
along those lines, another easy way to hook it up is like a software-defined radio. Very cheap USB dongle that you can plug into a PC, and that can also receive and decode digital modes without having to plug your computer into the radio itself.
Yeah, actually, that's an excellent point. I hadn't even been thinking about the software-defined radio, which is another excellent option. And actually, I was thinking that instead of actually having a device to hook up the radio, either just using the audio signal, so just literally turning up the, doing audio coupling, you may have heard it referred to as, but just literally having the radio turned up, and then the microphone on the computer, as long as you have the microphone on the computer, having the microphone turned up. And I apologize, I was going to do a demonstration, but I need the two computers set up side by side and with a Zoom meeting. Anyway, I'll for next time, I'll see if I can get a demo set up. and then the other option, I'm also working on a slide set on this to just walk folks through. But you can actually, for receive only, you can connect your radio to the computer just with a simple audio cable, and that also makes it just a little bit easier. So I think we'd have a number of options. And Matt, just like you said, the software-defined radio, they're these very inexpensive little dongles, and that's also an excellent option.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking that just using the microphone for one way, that makes sense too.
So to recap, we're looking at sending out digital information from a ham radio. So somebody like Christian or somebody that has a ham radio license and has the equipment, sending out digital information. It moves over to our GMRS radio. We get our GMRS radio and our laptop, or maybe a desktop, but laptops in the field. These two talk, and then that digital information is available on your computer screen. And whether you take a snapshot of your computer screen so that you have that information, whether you print it out, there's lots of different options. So we're looking at exercising this stuff in 2022. The first step would be to maybe figure out the different ways to do this, whether it's a dongle or an audio cable, or just downloading software onto your computer. We've talked about, do many of us have the ability to sit on a Zoom meeting like we're doing now, and or sit on our laptop and download that software using somebody's smart brain on the other end of a Zoom call? So trying to figure out how to get the software installed on our computers and then having them talk to our GMRS radios. Any questions, the non-ham types? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Gabrielle.
When you say laptop, you mean a non-Chromebook type laptop. Would that be correct? Because it would have to have software on it already.
A Chromebook could be made to work if you wanted to.
Okay, I'm just curious.
You'd have to do a little bit of prep ahead of time.
Okay. All right, thanks.
And just to clarify, the welfare checks, which is basically people either saying I'm here and I'm fine, or looking for someone in their household that, a loved one. Welfare checks they're kind of bubbling up to the surface at a network level. So Cindy and I are starting conversations with Tim and Catherine, who run ACS, to see if this might be in the future for ACS. It's low priority because you're only benefiting one person, versus ACS's job is to benefit a large number of people. So it's low priority for them, but is there some room for that function to be, if not incorporated into ACS, the official people in ACS, maybe we can teach, ham radio operators that aren't involved in ACS to help us out with these welfare checks. So it's being worked at a much higher level than North Seattle, but I think it's kind of coming.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. Gabrielle's got something. So any questions about GMRS radio kind of stuff moving forward 2022?
What, not GMRS, I was wondering if you had discussed LoRa at all, using like mesh communications over unlicensed spectrum. I was just pulled this out, but this is an example of a radio which you can pair with your cell phone over Bluetooth, and it will communicate over several kilometers or over a mile with other radios like it to send text messages, and you can add them together to create a mesh, and the signal will hop across longer distances. So if we had one at every hub, there's a good chance that we could all have text messaging capability.
That sounds like a good
really
topic for the future.
Right now, really interesting. And actually, so Matt, another thing that Ann and I had talked about briefly that might be a useful topic for a future meeting was just what we know about what has happened when cell networks and internet have gone down and just some basic information about how long it takes to get back up and what the dynamics are. And I mentioned this to Ann in the context of one of our ACS members, who you might know, a guy named Randy Niels, and he works with it, and I think he may work for a cell company or someone who supports cell phone companies. But Randy and a number of other folks volunteered. This was a year ago this summer, when there were the fires down along the Mackenzie River in Oregon, and the fires destroyed a bunch of cell phone infrastructure. And Randy went down with a number of volunteers to help provide some temporary communication support. And they ended up putting into place a building essentially like a Max-Fi or whatever you call it, like a sort of a gigantic Wi-Fi temporary setup. And it was interesting. I won't go into all the details, but I was just sharing with Ann. It was fascinating both to learn about how quickly the tech companies, they're very well equipped. And so in some respects, they were able to come in very, very quickly, but in other respects, they're set up for these very narrow responses. They're not disaster response companies. They're cell providers. And so their response is not to come in and restore telecommunications for the community. Their goal is to come back in and restore cell phone service for their customers. And and because of that, there were some dynamics that were just very interesting and different. And I think it would be useful to have Randy maybe talk about that, and bearing in mind that rural Oregon is going to be a different beast, in terms as opposed to Seattle, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw him directly, but I recall during the Comm Academy there was a presentation about that, and they were talking about the cows and how typically the networks are providing for their first party customers and not supporting MVNOs. And I'm on a T-Mobile MVNO, so I've reached out to them directly for clarification to see if I'd be deprioritized. They couldn't comment directly on it, but that's an interesting topic.
I forgot. That was him. That was exactly,
okay.
And so that's exactly it. In fact, I had forgotten that he did that presentation at Comm Academy. So this is a ham radio event, and actually that's recorded. So we could actually just send out a link to that video. That might be the thing to do. And then if there's interest, I'm sure we could get Randy to come and talk to folks and do a Q&A.
Yeah,
I think all of those sessions are on YouTube now.
I think you're
so
right. Yeah.
I'm gonna summarize what Randy and Christian and that kind of stuff have seen in prior emergencies is the cell phone folks get their systems up and running, but for their customers. So if your T-Mobile and her Verizon or something, Verizon, is up and running, you as a T-Mobile customer are not their priority and maybe won't get service. So really interesting dynamics. And so it's just it would be a good question to run down before a disaster, whether or not they're going to play crappy in the sandbox.
Yeah, well, it may not be that. I mean, they do use different frequencies, so it's
yeah. Maybe it's
capable of it.
Maybe they can't share, or maybe they only have limited bandwidth, and so they're going to give their bandwidth to their customers. They would love to give it to everybody else, but since they only have so much, they can only give it to their customers. Not sure. Okay. Can we go on to the next one? Next topic. Any more questions about radio? Okay. This is actually the next topic is kind of a radio thing, but hopefully you remember a while back we did something called a ham huddle, where for Victory Heights we identified hams in my area that are registered on this website, sent them invitations to come and find out A, what a hub is, and B, find out about ACS and see if they want to take their ham skills and volunteer with the city in a bigger role. So I mailed out 12. I think we got 3 ham radio operators to come and at least learn about the hub. One of my thoughts this winter, while we're still kind of forced to meet indoors, is would would anybody be interested in doing a larger ham huddle where you guys do the invites and we all meet? In my head, it's Maple Leaf Park, because there's a shelter there where we can meet outside, but at least not be rained on. And all the ham radio operators can gather. We show them what a hub is. We tell them what a hub does. We show them where their local hub is. And then, Christian or Susanna or Dean or somebody does a little pitch for ACS, and we try and get them involved. If nothing else, it pulls them out of the woodwork a little bit. And so maybe you can see them face to face. Setting up the actual event is easy. The harder part is, it's not hard, but it does take a little bit of time to find these local ham radio operators, because there's addresses for them, but there's no email for them. So you physically have to send them, you either have to go to their address and put an invitation on their door, or you can mail it. So that's the hard part.
A lot of them might have profiles on qrz.com with email addresses.
Yeah,
and stuff.
that is a way to check, and then you could email them an invitation. So anybody interested in this? I'm not going to design it unless somebody's interested. Go ahead, Gabrielle.
I'm interested, but I'm wondering if we would get a higher response if they were coming to the hub that was right near where they lived.
Yeah.
So there's
absolutely.
the trade-off there that.
Yeah. Do they want to travel? Yeah, exactly. And so I'll send them out again, but I did write up the directions to do a ham huddle. Like, what website do you go to find these people? And I gave you sample invitations and all that kind of stuff. So absolutely, I think you would get a better response if you did it yourself. I am offering to coordinate a larger one if folks think it would be valuable.
I think it would be very valuable, but we got a lot of pushback at ACS about needing to comply with city regulations. So we could utilize ham radio operators whether or not they were part of ACS. I don't want to stomp on ACS here because I think it would be great if everybody joined ACS, but we've lost people because of the regulations that the city has imposed for vaccine mandates. So if there's any of that caution, we could, there's plenty of roles for ham radio operators, whether or not they're actually part of ACS that could work with the hub. And the welfare checks is just one example of those, that somebody might be willing to sit in their house and coordinate welfare checks for people, but don't want to actually be volunteers for the city. Because if you're ACS, you are a city volunteer. So
you have to go through a background check, and there's quite a few hoops to jump through, and it's gotten a little bit more difficult or detailed or whatever lately because of COVID.
Yes.
So
also, some people have been upset about the association with the police department and their policies.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're not associated with the police department anymore.
Okay.
So I'm not seeing a lot of enthusiasm for an open ham huddle. If you guys do want to do it, like I said, I'm happy to coordinate the event. You just need to do the outreach. So we'll go on. You guys can think about it, and I will send out the ham huddle instructions to everybody. And I'm available if for some reason the instructions don't make sense. But it just kind of seems like a good thing to do in the winter if you can find a place to gather out of the elements. Okay, next thing, I'm going to share my screen, and I want to show you some of these devices I kind of alluded to earlier. Getting power from your car battery. So this is literally, you open the hood of your car, you unhook the electrodes or whatever they are from your car battery, and you pull it out. I mean, you could leave it in your car, but that's a little uncomfortable. So I would personally pull it out and bring it inside or something. Obviously, there are alligator clips that hook to, red is positive, black is negative, right on your car battery. This thing is $10, so super cheap. And then this is a cigarette lighter adapter. thing. So the value of this little $10 device is that you can use the power out of your battery directly to your device, and you're not energizing your whole car by turning the key a couple clicks. Okay, you're not sending energy to the radio or the lights or whatever else, whatever else needs electricity in a car. So it is the most efficient way to get power out of your car battery and use it for your devices. So this is just a typical cigarette lighter. These are USB ports. So I'm sure you all charge your phones from your car. This is just a way to do it in an emergency. So I'm going to keep going. If you want to take your car battery power and invert it and make it into normal plugs like you would have in your house. So this electricity right here is no different than what you get out of your wall. This is an inverter. It's about $50 if you're interested in that. So you could plug in something that you can't do with a cigarette lighter or a USB cable. I don't know exactly off the top of my hand. I don't know what that would be, but go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I just have one comment. The price at that price point, you're not going to get the same electricity to get out of the wall. There is a slight difference in the AC current. They use the stepped current, which is not as smooth as what the power company delivers, and it can cause trouble with some electronics, especially radios. If you've got if you're using like ham or JMRS radios near that or near appliances that are running on that kind of power, you'll get a buzzing sound, and it may reduce your transmit power. It's also going to have a lot of difficulty running something like a fan. So that's just one thing to be aware of. If you want the same power you get out of your wall, you're probably looking at minimum $200 for an inverter.
Ouch. Okay. I ran this one past Carl Leon, and it's a pure sine inverter. I don't know, lots of technical stuff.
Well, if it's pure sine, that's what I'm talking about. But yeah, I've never seen one that I would trust for $50. But if you said it's okay, maybe, yeah.
I'll send this out. I personally have not used it, but Matt, send a if you wouldn't mind, do some research and send your best pick to avoid some of the problems you talked about. That would be really helpful.
And I have used it.
Oh, okay.
I was gifted one as a gift. Like, it was gifted one. I was like, this sounds handy. I'm not sure when I'm going to use it. And I tried to do it to, please forgive me when I admit this, but to blow dry my hair in the car.
Right.
I was the passenger. I was not the driver.
Okay.
But I was late and my husband was driving, and I'm like, well, we have this thing. Let's get going. Let's do this. It did not work for a blow dryer. Now, granted, a hair dryer is a lot of power, right? Like a lot of power. It was fine for charging other things, like for charging things, but it could not handle a hair dryer. That being said, I don't know if it was the $200 mark one, right? Like, it was
for hair dryer. You would need more, and you would need to cook it directly up to the battery.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, this one would not run a hair dryer.
That, and the one I have is a little bit smaller than that.
Yeah, you'd need twice this to run a hair dryer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So but we use it to, what we do use it for is, we've taken it to charge, when we take it camping, to blow up our air mattress.
Sure.
Because we had an air mattress that plugs into a wall, and it didn't have, like, there was no car adapter or anything like that. And we were like, we're too lazy. So we brought an extension cord instead. And it did do that. It was slow, but it did it. The hair dryer would just go on and off and on and off and on and off for like a half a second each time it was on. So anyway, I don't know if that's a sort of,
I'll put a sticker on mine that says no blow dryer.
No hair dryer.
I'm surprised that didn't blow the plug in the car.
Yeah, it didn't.
Yeah,
it didn't.
So, Anne, can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
These two, the $10 and the $5 thing, everyone in my family and extended family got one of those from me last Christmas.
For Christmas.
I'm thinking about emails, and maybe the next email we send out could be holiday ideas for emergency preparedness.
You read my mind. I have a slide on that. It's already prepared. So let me keep going. So this is the research. Thank you, Louise Luthi, for doing this research. She found an amazing article. I'm going to give you a link to the article. It's how many times can a car battery charge a phone? So a healthy car battery should be able to charge a smartphone 20 to 30 times while still being able to start the vehicle. So you are not taking this battery down to its minimum. 20 to 30 times, which is pretty darn good. And that's using this little adapter, this thing over here, the $10 deal. If you do it by turning the key in your car, I don't know what it would be. You can double that number of charges. That 20 to 30 could go to 40 to 60 if the car battery is fully drained. If you use an inverter, that's that $50 or $200 thing, you're going to lose about 25% of the power in that battery. So you're going to reduce it to about 17 to 22 times. You could fully charge your smartphone. So in my head, that is a whole lot of power that not a lot of people know about. They may think about it when they need it, but if you don't have this device, that $10 device ahead of time, I don't know how you would rig it, make it happen. Okay, we're going to go on to GMRS radios. This is the radio that I have, and I think most of you probably have. This is the BTEC. There's a device. It's called a battery eliminator, and it's a little hard to see, but basically your GMRS radio, the battery's on the back of it, which is what this piece mimics. But how can I say this? You have to stand really close to your car battery to make this work. This is not a separate battery, this thing on the right. This basically is like plugging your radio into the wall and not being able to walk away. So it's called a battery eliminator. I could not find I'm sure you can buy a spare battery, but I'd have to put the battery and the radio in the charger for my GMRS radio.
In the crib.
Making sense? Yeah, in the device, in the charger.
Also, some radios like this one have USB charging.
Right. Ours just don't happen to, the ones most of us have been buying. So again, I'm going to send you the link for this. I think it's an interesting idea. Probably a more efficient way to run your radio than going back to a couple slides, than using your car battery and this inverter and plugging your GMRS radio in and charging it that way. So
Send out the link. If there's one link to that battery eliminator thing, could you send that link out as well?
Absolutely, yeah.
Great,
I already have it in the minutes. So I'm going to keep going so that we can wrap this meeting up quickly. We had talked about at the last, I think it was the deep dive. I don't know. At some point, we talked about lettering our vests, those orange vests that most of us got with our gear. I personally have lettered mine. They have the name of the person on back of it. There is some advantage to laminating a piece of paper that says volunteer coordinator and taping it on the back of on the vest on a person's back. We tried that in the drill and really struggled with it. So I'm very comfortable writing on these vests, making it happen. If we change the name of the greeter to something else, I will throw that vest away and buy me a new one. They're not that expensive. The cheapy ones that we got are not that expensive. So the reason I'm showing you this is because in my analness and my TV watching time, I sat in front of the TV and made stencils that I'm happy to loan out. If you give a rat's about how pretty your labeling is, then you are welcome to borrow them. And I have one for every job title we have. So I just want to put it out that they're there. Letter your vest if you're comfortable with it. If that sounds too permanent, then don't. Your call. I'm going to stop sharing. Oh no, I'm going to go to one more slide. Gift ideas for those you care about. The top ones are all of these devices we've been talking about. Efficiently charge your cell phone from your car battery, and then light up a dark night. These are some options. The links work. So, and I think unfortunately most of them go to Amazon, but you know, that is our world. I think these are really fun. I don't have one. I'm really jealous. Because we have so many headlamps, I'm not going to buy one, but they are so multi-directional. It's not like a dot on your forehead. It covers your whole forehead. So you don't have to keep turning your head to light up things when you're wearing a headlamp. Power outage lights, these go on when the power goes out. So it helps you get out of dark places like basements or hallways or whatever. Very, very, useful to have. And then the bottom ones, this is my new fascination, is how we're all going to cook when the power's out. So these are different kinds of stoves. All of these, I think all of these use biomass, use like twigs. Maybe not the one on the far left. Anyway, I'll send it out. Feel free to share it with whomever. Feel free to buy them for whomever. That's my last slide. So I'm going to stop sharing. What other things do we have on okay, a couple more things on the agenda, and then I'll stop talking. I'm going to do another set of preparedness classes. These classes are every Wednesday night. They start at 7. They're over by 7:30. It's 2 topics that are closely related, back to back. They're little short bits. You get an assignment for the week, and then we do it again the following week. So this series coming up is going to actually be 7 classes, not 6. They're going to start January 12th, and I'll send out information that you're welcome to share with your neighbors, and would love to have anybody join. They have been very well received, and I think a part of that is because they're so short. It's half an hour on a Wednesday night for 7 weeks in a row, and it's kind of done and over with. Holiday gift ideas I showed you, and then again, I'm really interested in how to cook for a crowd. The more I think about it, the more I realize that neighbors, it makes so much sense for neighbors to plan on cooking together. Why every family on a street or in an apartment building or whatever, why everybody has to cook separately makes no sense. It's just going to be too darn difficult. So I'm gathering recipes for soup, because that's a good way to cook for a volume of people. And then exploring ideas of how to, barbecue grills are great, but they're going to wear out. They're going to run out, and biomass just, sticks and stuff just makes a lot of sense until it's raining, and then there's no way to light anything. So it's kind of running through my head. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'm still thinking. So I'm going to stop talking. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Oh, good. Brianna, I see your message about the power outage lights. Yeah, they're very cool.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of the Energizer ones. I like those because they have a nice soft light.
Okay, nice.
Life straws is another one. And then, those life straws for holiday gift ideas.
For gift ideas.
Yeah. And then we got those, they're called Lumen. They're lights that you open them up. They're like a square. They have a super cheap one. It's like $10, and they have a whole bunch going up from there. And I got a couple in different price ranges. And they're supposed to say charge for a really long time. Matt's probably already got one. Right?
I don't have those. I have the Lucy, the round ones.
And one other idea we were talking about the other day, when the power went out at like 6 o'clock, we were like, oh, it'd be nice if we had book lamps. And, book lamps is something that usually comes up around Christmas time because people give it as gifts. And I was like, oh, that's the perfect thing, because you have just enough power, to read or do one test. So that was another thing we were thinking about.
That's a good idea.
Kindle already has a lamp.
Matt say Lucy lights. We have Lucy lights, and we have them in a closet in Maui. And after 8 dark months in the closet, when we needed them, they were still working. So it's a really nice product, and they're pretty inexpensive. And the newer ones, I think, have USB ports on them as well. Our older ones don't. So Lucy lights are great.
Yeah, I lost one in my trunk, and I was really surprised that it still worked. They often have like buy one get one sales too, so check the site.
Okay, Sandy, is it Lucy, Lucy?
LUCI.
Okay, all right. I will add that to the holiday list. Gabrielle, I want to say one thing about the life straw, and this is just a caution. Their life straws are great if you're out out backpacking and you have access to clean, fresh running water, and all you need to do is get rid of bacteria and even some viruses. In an urban setting, there is a danger of people relying on those, on a life straw in particular, because they cannot filter out chemicals like gasoline or pesticides. Well, I take that back. They might filter out chemicals, some of them, but not everything you would find in an urban setting. So what you're looking for in a life straw kind of thing is something that has charcoal. I don't know that there's many devices that have charcoal included in a life straw size, but that's for our situation here in an urban setting. Hi, Kitty. That would really be helpful. I wouldn't, if that was somebody's only device and they're, that's all they have to drink, I think it's, it's probably worth it. But if you're starting from scratch and you're going to outfit someone, I would definitely look for charcoal in an urban setting.
And I have a question about all that. So we bought, we have a cat fountain, right, for a little kitty. And it has a little fountain that comes out and you're supposed to replace the filter. And the filter on it is ridiculous. Like it's a whole contraption. You're not like you're just replacing like a screen or like a little packet. They want you to replace a whole like plastic cage. And I'm like, I just don't, I feel like that's wasteful. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to replace my own. And so I was like, I'll just buy the charcoal loose and I'll refill the little packet, which by the way, it works, but it's not great. I'm curious. Now I have this big jug of just activated charcoal. And now that you're saying like a life straw is kind of useless without the charcoal component, I'm like, oh, I have a way to purify water with this big jug of charcoal. And I'm wondering if you know of a device, or is it like, do I just like have fabric and like have it soaking in a thing, or like, how would I?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's exactly it. That fabric thing. I've seen people build water filters.
yeah.
Charcoal's on the bottom, and then they have maybe rocks are at the top and then sand in the middle and charcoal at the bottom. And that charcoal, I don't think is going to filter out bacteria or viruses, but I think it will take out a lot of those chemicals. So it's a step in the right direction. I don't know that it's the absolute
Sure.
answer.
Well, something you can do is a multi-step approach. So if you're stuck and you have not saved enough water and you're in the city and you have these tools, you can't put it together. So you can take your dirty contaminated water from a stream. You could put some bleach in it to kill bacteria, protozoa. You can do a DIY charcoal filter like you're describing to get all the chunks and chemicals out, and then run it through a life straw or a Sawyer and end up with very clean water.
Pretty clean water. I would do the filtering first, the charcoal first, and then the bleach, and then the life straw.
Okay.
And
I
then,
think the charcoal will get rid of some of the bleach taste, maybe, but
That's
haven't
different.
tried.
Yeah.
and then comparing all that to like boiling, because boiling is going to take care of the bacteria, right? And the protozoa and that kind of thing, the living organisms for the most part, unless we're in a hot spring, and I don't think that's going to be happening. So, but it's not going to get rid of like, but
If you
I don't know
distill
about
it,
fuels.
you could get rid of the chemicals.
Yeah.
So you could set up a still.
still.
I think, we're going to have to be careful about this because many of us live next to big bodies of water. And if there's a seiche and there's chemical spills in the lake water, it's, if it comes down to you have nothing to drink and you're going to die of lack of water versus you drink chemical. But I think we should be really careful about how we present this, because
Agreed.
Yeah.
and
That's a good point, Sandy.
I store a lot of rainwater. That's kind of my backup if it's hitting my roof and going into a barrel, then I can be sure there's not a lot of crazy chemicals.
Yeah.
In it.
Yes, but the boats on the lake and whatever. So I just think we have to it would be really good to have some sort of authoritarian on this, because we're surrounded by water and none of it may be drinkable
Right.
safely.
The party line.
Yeah.
What's that, Louise?
I was just going to say, we have taken that as our message because there's so much equivocation to say, just do not drink water from the lake. There's nothing
Yeah.
that can purify.
Yeah.
And to your point, Sandy, of course, if you're dying and that's the only water, but the minute we start saying, well, maybe, then people jump into the
Right.
boat of not doing anything. So
Yeah.
we just say, get the water, store it. Plastic bottle, never think about it again.
Right.
And don't offer other options.
But that's great if you have a house and you have storage space.
Right.
But
That's-
in Lake City, on all of these people who are living in very small apartments, their hot water heaters are locked away because even though they're in their apartments, they don't want them storing anything next to them. They have no place to store water. It is the last thing that they would think to do. So it's a difficult thing.
Yeah.
It's same for food, but I mean, it's a different issue,
Yeah.
but same for food storage issues and ability to afford extra.
Well, food may be more readily available because we're going to have a lot of food waste from stores and we have food banks, but the food banks don't store water.
Right.
And
So,
comparatively,
but
grocery
those-
stores have a lot more food than bottled water too.
Yeah.
But to me, then it falls upon us that have storage space to do the job. So that if there's water available, it's available to those that can't begin to do the job, even if there
Right.
was a will.
Well, if there was
And
a good community center, for example, in Lake City, then maybe there would be a water storage facility, but we don't have that.
Sandy, I hope you're pushing for that in a community center. I think that's a really smart idea. I know it's 10 years down the road, but man.
Yeah,
Genius.
and for every community center, I mean, they all have to have water storage. We
They should.
stupidly went with a tankless hot water system in our house, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. We keep thinking that we're going to redo that and get water tanks back, but COVID came and we still haven't done it. But we need to do it too, because your hot water tank is a great storage facility if you can protect it. So
it's hard to get those big tanks anymore.
well,
I've been looking. I'm
30-gallon
struggling.
tank is better than a no-gallon tank.
Sandy, if you have the space for a hot water tank still, you can still have one
Yes.
and just have it for that. And you don't have to get rid of your tankless.
Yeah,
Yes.
just put a drum there.
That's true.
Like
That's true.
if you have that space, well, then you don't have to you don't have to remake the wheel, right? You already have.
No,
your
it can run through it. So yes, you're right.
Yeah, you just have a separate storage. I mean, we went tankless and I don't regret it at all. We just now have portable storage devices for the water.
Yeah.
And I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I can't fill the bathtub, in an emergency, with drinkable water, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We got rid of our bathtub too. So I'm
Wow.
The future.
All right. So
yeah.
the discussion about water filtering is great, but Louise is very correct that this is a conversation for very well-educated and well-prepared people. The standard message is, no, I'm not going to talk to you about water filtration. I'm going to encourage you to buy bottled water or to fill your own jugs. Because of just that, people are much more interested in buying fancy gadgets to filter water than storing, because storing water is not sexy and fancy gadgets are. But yeah, the party line is, nope, not going to talk to you about water filtration. Really need to encourage you to store water. And one last thing I forgot about. I'm at the beginning of a process of making a specially designed series of classes for towers, for apartment dwellers, MDUs, multi-dwelling units. It's really, really interesting, and I hope to report out more. I'm hoping to collaborate with the fire department and get them to help me lean on property owners to support the folks living there. I think they can do some good. So more on that to come. That won't be till 2022, but the groundwork's being laid. Matt Offlick kind of started this before he left the Office of Emergency Management. So I'm just kind of hoping to move forward with his idea. So anything?
We talked a little bit about lights. I am in the process of throwing together kind of a slideshow presentation on headlamps and flashlights, as well as batteries, if anyone's interested. I might present it
Yeah,
to a
send it
smaller group
out.
first and see how that goes. Just share
Okay.
it.
And is that, Matt, is that something that once you do it, we can send out to everybody? Because I think there would be a lot of general interest in the community for stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, if there is, I could just upload it to YouTube and share it that way, or I could try it live as a hub deep dive presentation or something. But I could talk about flashlights and headlamps for a long time. So I'm trying to make it beginner friendly.
Sorry, I'm thinking of all kinds of stuff. Back to our original conversation about the group, every different people creating different content for different months of the year and then sharing so everybody can, benefit. One of the things that Cindy mentioned, and it made perfect sense, all this information you're talking about sharing is available everywhere. We are not creating anything. This is all available. So definitely, just steal from other sources, how to do toilets or whatever topic it is you want to do. The thing that doesn't get talked about is the hubs. So every single one of these messages going out has to be, this is brought to you by your local emergency communication hub. We have to push ourselves because nobody else is talking about us. The city mentions us as little as they can, I think. They're getting better, but we really have to push the message of the hubs because it doesn't come from any other source. And all this information we're talking about doing is it is available in a million places. So
I've been talking about us on the Preppers Guild. It's a Discord that used to be owned by a big YouTuber. Talks about urban prepping.
Cool. Okay. Is it a Seattle thing?
No, they're worldwide. He lives in Seattle and he's not really running it anymore, but there are hundreds of members around the world.
Okay, cool. Hubs are only in Seattle. They're not even in King County. I mean, they could be, but they're not. We're happy to share the idea and the website's open to everybody, but it is kind of a Seattle thing. And as far as I can tell from Cindy,
to get them to join, it's just trying to help them also prepare their communities using the same kind of ideas.
Yeah. I think Cindy's done the research, and I don't think a hub system exists in any other city that you would expect. San Francisco, San Diego, LA, Portland, nobody has a hub system, which is kind of interesting. Anyway. Okay.
Well, yay.
And where are we with what's the next steps for the emails? It'd be great to get one out.
What about the holiday gift idea thing? Would that be a good one to start? And because I've already, let me add a few more things to that too. It's just it's a Microsoft Word document. I will send that out and maybe I'll craft a little holiday message, although I'm not feeling very creative, but it'd be a good one. It would be an easy one to send out. And then I will create a calendar and put different topics on there and you guys can pick the one you want. And I think it would be, if anybody has any words of wisdom for like length, 2 paragraphs, use lots of bold, colorful letters. I don't know if anybody has some guidance on doing that. I think that would be helpful.
2 paragraphs.
And
2 paragraphs. 2 paragraphs.
Yeah, I know. I
paragraphs
can't read.
right
I can't read emails longer than that. I just completely ignore them to my detriment.
Too many emails.
Yeah. So short and snappy.
Short. And I mean, I look at it like it's not even gonna go out in an email for me. It's going on in the Facebook group. Like it's on our community council Facebook group. That's where all my stuff is going to go. Like we don't have our listserv all put together yet for the hub yet anyway. So it's going to go out to the community council and it's going to go out to the Facebook groups and that's it. Like it's short.
Yeah.
Like Instagram, Twitter, short.
Yeah. If we want to make them look uniform, we can edit them so they all kind of look the same, but yeah, so short and sweet. And I will come up with some verbiage to put at the bottom or whoever does the first one, well, that's me, verbiage to put at the bottom that becomes our tagline, which is, this is brought to you by the Emergency Communication Hub. Oh, bye, Hugh. He left already. Okay.
I think we
Anything
lost
else?
Gabrielle too.
Yeah.
My friend in Sandpoint said that their power just went out all through the hill in Windermere.
Oh, that's Gabrielle. Bummer.
Yeah,
I need to go
ours is
plug my
thinking,
stuff in.
so, yeah.
All right. Everybody go plug your devices in before you lose power. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Anne,
Yes.
will you keep us in the loop for this apartment complex project thing, preparedness for the community council is one of our goals for the next year is to focus on inclusion with more of the complexes, because it's all single family people that are having the bandwidth and the knowledge to be able to make these things happen. So we're making, conscious efforts to outreach. And I feel like what we need is to have representatives in each complex to be able to get right. And I feel like that would be a great way to unite a
something
building.
to offer them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome.
absolutely.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
You're welcome.
All right,
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.